Welcome to Eve's Gardeners. My name is Leah, and together I want to get into what it really means to believe in God. Join me in the garden every week to discuss different topics within the Torah, the world's first Bible and my personal favorite subject. Follow along to hear from unique perspectives as well as Torah experts I've had the privilege to learn from. Get ready to dive into the coolest and deepest topics on earth.
Excited?
I'm very excited. I just want to give like a brief introduction. I basically recently went to my good friend's baby's birthday party, aka your granddaughter's birthday. Yeah, okay, that was right. That just turned 2, and Eyal comes up to me and he's like, "I want to do a podcast. Let's do a podcast." And I was like, "What? Say less. Like, let's do it for sure." I have so many things that I want to get into with you. So many questions that I have for you. And for those of you who don't know who Eyal is, I'm gonna hype you up for just a second. So
Right.
just for now, just for a second.
Bring it on.
You could close your ears. Eyal is the CEO of Invicta Watch Group and the owner of Invicta Racing. And amongst all his like business accomplishments and like everything you've done in the world, you are also a very proud Jew, a very big Zionist, a vocal Zionist, the good kind of Zionist, the only kind. And just from an outsider's perspective, like just as an observer, you seem like someone who's very connected to his Jewish values, his Jewish heritage. Is that correct?
That's pretty correct.
Okay.
No, it's actually very correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
feel
think
like
that's
this.
the foundation of, especially in today's era.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely really important. And like today, it's really important to like be proud of your Jewishness. You know, we kind of are struggling a little bit in that area nowadays. But yeah, before we get into the questions, because I have tons of questions for you, I want to get into that heritage for just a second. We always start every podcast, I call it Jewish geography, where we just give like very easy questions, background on like your life, where you come from, how you grew up. So the first part of Jewish geography is where are you from? Like, where's your parents from? Where did you grow up?
Yeah. So my mother was born in Colombia, and my father in Israel.
Okay.
And actually, my mother ended up in Colombia because my grandmother migrated after the Holocaust. She ran away. Her father was the only remaining.
Oh, your grandmother was a Holocaust survivor?
Yeah, my grandmother was a
Oh, wow,
Holocaust survivor.
cool.
Yeah, so she was. She's the only survivor from her family. Her father actually ran away to Colombia before the war started, or before.
Oh, that's crazy.
And
The only one from her family.
yeah, everybody else was murdered. And after the war, she searched for her father, and she found out that he was in Colombia,
Oh, wow.
and ended up going there. Her
That's crazy.
yeah, her life in itself is a whole story that we can do a whole podcast about.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Which we won't. But yeah, so she had my mother was born in Colombia, and then she married in Panama. So she eventually moved to Panama.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought Panama was in there.
Yeah, and my father's from Israel. When he finished his military service, he moved to Panama, and that's where my parents met, and that's where I was born.
Okay. How long did you live there?
So I lived until I was around 6 or 7 years old,
Oh, okay.
and then they decided to make a move to the U.S.
To Miami?
Yeah, so straight to Miami.
wow.
Yeah, so we had family, some uncles here, and they, we just ended up in the same area.
So you're more like Miami boy at heart.
Well, not really. I wouldn't say that. I don't know if that's the case. Maybe Miami boy for my early years.
Okay.
But then when I was 14, I ended up going to boarding school in Israel.
Oh, at 14 you were?
Yeah, well, it was between 14 and 15.
Oh, okay.
It's right
So yeah,
before
I'm
my-
sure that had like a big impact on.
Yeah, it was planned. I think
Yeah.
the system here wasn't exactly what I fit into, so it was probably a better choice to send me off to
Got you.
Israel.
Okay.
And
cool.
I think so I think if you ask me, am I Latin from Panama? Am I American because I'm an American boy? Am I Israeli? It's probably a combination of. And what I usually do is I pick the best parts of each.
That's amazing.
like
I love that.
Pick and
Which
choose.
one do you like? I know that you said you're all of them, but like, if you had to pick one that you connect to the most, what do you think?
It's definitely Israel.
The Israel.
Israeli.
Yeah, that's cool.
The best side of the Israeli side.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of not so best parts of that. We're gonna touch on that maybe. Okay, so second part of Jewish geography is I would just like to get an idea of like how Jewishness was in your life, like how much Jewishness did you have in your life like growing up versus like now? Like has it grown? Has it changed?
No, it's been probably identical since, pretty consistent.
Okay.
So consistency, very more observant in the fact that Shabbat was very important to us, the unity of the family. It's more of the keeping the family together, the holidays, the typical,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
not too much religious, a lot of pick and choose on kashrut and all the other actions like we usually do.
Miami boy.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So now when you told me that you wanted to come on, and we just spoke about this, you specifically asked for a spicy topic. And so lucky for the gardeners, I have chosen several spicy topics that we're going to get into. So are you ready?
Yeah, go.
Okay.
That's what we're here for.
Okay, so
No filters.
No filters. We don't judge on the garden at all. So you mentioned to me that you're very passionate about the topic of Kiddush Hashem. I'm just going to quickly define what that term means because there's a lot of people that come on here from different backgrounds. So I always like to translate anytime you say a Hebrew word that I think that they might not know. I'm gonna ask you to translate it. But basically what Kiddush Hashem means literally is sanctifying God's name. And what that means, because that also sounds a little Chinese, is basically this idea of you want to make God look good. You want to make the Jewish people look good. And it's a command that we actually get from God to make a Kiddush Hashem in this world. And it's the whole be a light onto the nations and all that jazz. And it's just this idea of you are a Jew, you have to act a certain way. You have to you're representing this group of people. You have to represent it well and really, come out into this world and show what it is to really be a Jew in the authentic way. And then the opposite of Kiddush Hashem is something called the Chilul Hashem, which is desecrating God's name. And it's completely opposite. Basically, I like to say it's just an embarrassment. You're an embarrassment to the Jewish people. You're an embarrassment to God. Stop doing that. So for example, let's say a rabbi goes into Dunkin' Donuts and the barista got his order wrong and he's throwing a tantrum. Stop. Don't do that. That's embarrassing, especially if you're dressing the part.
Yeah.
I'll even go as far to say as it's better not to wear a skirt or a wig or a hat or a kippah if you're gonna act that way. Don't be embarrassing. That's embarrassing,
Yeah,
so,
and the idea is the concept of elevating God's name in your actions. That's a reality. And the reason I love the topic, and I think it's not only that I love it and I stand behind it, that it means more today than ever.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, from a religious perspective, but also from what we represent today as Jewish people.
Totally.
Yeah, and that's what's important to me today, that, obviously there's this perception of what Jews are, what we look like, how we act, what wealth we have or we don't have, or and that's what scares me, how the world perceives us, and we're so little. And it's incredible, obviously, to still understand.
Yeah.
No, it's incredible to see how people still think, and very intellectual people I work with. I always like to ask them, how many Jews are in the world?
Oh, I love
and
asking people that.
And you still get the 100 million, 150 million because you're very little. I'm like, yeah, we're if we're 15, 18 million, at tops, we're lucky.
It's so crazy because it really is. Even educated people. I recently asked that to a coworker of mine. Because we were kind of just arguing or something. It was a friendly argument, but then she was like, what do you mean you guys are everywhere? And I was like, just out of curiosity, how many people do you think? And she was like, probably more than Muslims. Or I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, can we just do a quick ChatGPT search right now? And she was in shock.
Yeah, our statistic is there's no chance. We don't have a chance.
Crazy. It really is crazy.
What we're up against, there is no chance. So I think the whole concept of Kiddush Hashem goes, obviously from a religious perspective, but also from what the Jews represent in the world and making sure to
even
make
from,
an impact.
From a logical perspective too. We have so much unjustified hate on us already. We've always had a target on our backs, especially today. And so we don't need to be adding justified hate to that too. They already have enough material to work with.
Yeah, it is somewhat of a defense mechanism. Let's be real.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So I know you just touched on it a little bit, but what is it about this concept of Kiddush Hashem that gets you so fired up?
Well, yeah, it's back to making sure that we're portraying what we stand for. And I think that, in general, and obviously being Jewish, maybe a non-Jewish listener would think that I'm just saying this because that's where we are. But we have such great morals and such great laws that, around Judaism, the mitzvot, or
right.
that we're supposed to live by. They're very logical and they're so pure and correct that I think that most people don't even know they exist, and we're still being judged in such a negative way.
Yeah.
That, as much as I like to tell people you should be humble, if there's one area that we should be showing off as Jews, is what our qualities are, and we don't do enough of that. And to me, that's part of that.
Yeah, like showing how much beauty there is into it. Like I feel like the representation that we get is always like very cringe or very like just unappealing.
Yeah, and
We have so much cool things about like the way that we live our lives.
yeah, and just the rules of, you don't have to be religious, or you do have to be religious, but the rules that are set or instilled in us
You're right.
have such important and they make sense.
Right, yeah.
There are religious people out there that will follow something just because they're told to do so. I actually like to study and understand what the reasoning behind them, and most of them have a very logical explanation.
Yeah.
And they're very functional. So, I think that when other people out there don't know Judaism enough, or you can take a Judaism or Israelis or whatever you want to call it, if they don't understand that concept, they have, again, this negative perception that I think, which obviously is not going to work, but I think I'm going to break if I make an impact on one person.
For sure. No, definitely. And I want to ask you, like, is being Jewish something that you wear on your sleeve? Is it like you say it with your chest, or is it just like if it comes up, then I'll tell them that I'm Jewish, like in your interactions?
I'm not going to run around with an Israeli flag T-shirt on me. And I'm not that type of Jew or Israeli. I don't fly an Israeli flag around. I don't. I do it in private. No, I do it. I will do it in private, but I will make sure that people know that I am Jewish and what my standards are when it's necessary.
Yeah, no, that is cool. I mean, I actually heard, I don't know, do you know the guy do you know Muse, the account on Instagram? Your wife probably knows about it, and like Maya and Noah for sure know about him. He posts like all the designer bags that like sells them for I don't know what, but he's like this really big guy like in the social media world, like in the Jewish world. And I recently like saw him, he always wears a kippah in his videos, and he's not like necessarily a religious guy. I don't know how religious he is, but we were staying in the same hotel in Israel, and we got to like talk a lot, and he was telling us how he always like makes sure that his kids go to school with kippah on, even though like he doesn't really care about the kippah thing, like religious wise. But he says that like them putting on a kippah is just like automatically they're a Jew, and now they have the opportunity to make that Kiddush Hashem, which I thought was like kind of interesting and cool. And so you work obviously with a lot of different types of people. You come across probably tons of different backgrounds and different kinds of, I don't know, from all over the world, people that you meet. How does the commandment of Kiddush Hashem manifest in your day-to-day life?
Well, I think, the best example is, making sure that people know that we work with honesty. Or, if you, back to social media, you look at some of these social media platforms or some of these guys selling, luxury items, and they use the word mazal. It's a good example. Mazal. It became like the slang word that everybody's using. But I've been using it.
Wait, can you use it in a sentence for like people?
Okay, so you and I make a deal. I want to buy, X amount of widgets from you, and you say, okay, I'll sell them to you for 1,000, and I give you a mazal. That means I agree.
Oh, okay.
So mazal means it's almost like a verbal agreement that has been signed between us.
Okay.
And once you stick to it, even if I'm going to lose money on that deal, or maybe you could have made more money on that deal, you're not allowed to sell to anybody else. I've given you my commitment, and you have to stand behind it. So I use that as a good example. And in the business world today, that, once you give your commitment to people, it's a firm deal. And I think that's been my biggest success, that people know that because of that quality, or in I guess in Judaism for us, it is a very important thing that those kind of, your word or your commitment to people is more valuable than any contract you'll ever sign.
Wow, I love that. So it's kind of like become like a part of your reputation in
it's a known thing. If I had to say, my biggest success has always been keeping my word. I've had recent, situations where I gave a commitment to somebody and it was going to work against us.
Right.
And, we sat in a meeting, and a lot of the people, Jewish, non-Jewish, and others, were recommending, look, it's the wrong decision to continue with this route. And we were going to lose a lot of, we were avoiding making a lot more money. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And I made it clear to everybody, I don't care how much money we can make. We gave our commitment, and we're not going back on it.
Those are that's kind of crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And and I think that when I do that, and this goes back to Kiddush Hashem, if there's non-Jewish people in the room, I will emphasize this is a Jewish thing.
Oh, I love that.
And it is a show off. In a humble way, it is showing off, but I want them to make sure that they understand that our morals are in line, or at least all of us should have that moral in line. Another situation that I can give you is, and this was a very big transaction that we did. We did an acquisition of another brand. I'm in the watch industry, and we got the legal papers on it, and they actually made a terrible mistake on their behalf that could have
Okay.
cost them dearly on that deal, and it was not part of our agreement. We were
It was a
doing it.
mistake that they had made that you
Their
noticed.
their
Okay,
legal
gotcha.
team, and they sent the final papers to be signed. We reviewed them, and we said, wait a minute, they made a mistake. This is like in our favor, and it would be completely against them. I actually called the CEO of that company, and I said, listen, we're ready to sign, but just look at clause, A, B, and C that you put on there. That's not supposed to be on there.
That's crazy.
And he came back, he's like, I don't believe you just did that. I said, yeah, it's the right thing to do. That's the way we do things in the Jewish religion. That's how we keep our word and our
Yeah.
contracts. So again, it's making sure that when you do it, I will tell everybody, just show off and tell
Yeah.
people
That's
where it
when you
comes
should
from.
wear it on your sleeve.
100%,
For
because
sure, yeah.
we're not going to get credit for it. But at least with all the hate that is out there, people should know what we really stand for, not what they perceive us to be.
Right. No, totally. I mean, even like on a small scale, because this is like on a big scale, like a way that you can do this in your life. Like, let's say you're at the grocery store and like they gave you like too much change back or whatever. And like they know you're Jewish for some reason. I know maybe you wear a kippah or you don't. And you're like, oh no, you gave me extra change. Like sometimes I've done that before and they're like, why would you do that? Like, but it's like,
I went one time with a bunch of with just a few of my friends, and I'm not a betting guy whatsoever. I don't gamble, but there was a big boxing match, and we said, okay, let's all put $50. It was 4 of us. That's $200. We went in and said, we're gonna put $200 on this fighter for whatever.
okay.
We went to the guy, put the $200. He gave me the ticket, and the ticket said $2,000 bet on so and so. And I walked away, and I'm like, wait a minute, we just paid for a $200 bet, not a $2,000 bet. He put obviously an extra zero in his, on the machine.
Yeah.
And we went back, and then I was like, so we went back to the guy. I said, listen, sir, you made a mistake. He got so upset. He goes, I don't make mistakes. Leave me alone. There's a line of people.
So
I
embarrassing.
said, no, there is a mistake on this ticket. And we started arguing, and I know where it was going. And I said, look at the ticket. How much did I give you? He said, 200. I said, well, you put 2,000 on there. So reverse. So you made a mistake. He goes, what? He couldn't understand.
He was in shock.
And I said, yeah. And I said, yeah, and thank you. We're from Israel. Nice to see you. I always throw either we're from Israel or we're Jewish.
Yeah,
Just
Israel's
to
a
plant,
good one.
just to plant that idea.
Yeah.
They'll put it together.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's amazing. It's like, yeah, it's doing so much by like not even having to say that much,
Yeah. And, and it also has, and I think the collateral damage, it's funny to say it, but it's, they call it the butterfly effect. I don't know if this person one day is going to work for somebody who's probably a Jew hater, who probably wants to do something really bad. And he's going to tell them, he's going to tell them, look, I met this Jewish person. They're not like that. And it might change the world. Literally,
Yeah,
I think
for
it'll
sure.
get to that extent. It might be obviously extremely exaggerated, but
Yeah, no,
think
I
it's true
think
reality.
it's definitely a real thing that like things trickle out into different things, like that thing that we used to do, the pay it forward or whatever. Like you do something, it has an effect. You don't know where that effect is going. It could be like infinite.
And think about it. Look at history. And I'm not going to bring probably the worst person that ever existed that hated the Jews in World War II. But if somebody would have done something at a moment to that person, could it have changed history? Obviously, that's not the way life works, but that's the way I think about it. I don't know. Maybe if
Yeah.
he was working at a casino and at that time, and I'm being, obviously sarcastic, but if he was working at a casino and somebody did that, said, wait a minute, Jewish people aren't, these evil people with horns on their heads and
Yeah,
big
for
noses
sure.
and
No, I think especially like in the professional world, like if the way that you treat employees, the way that you treat just anyone in your life, and they know that you're Jewish, it's a huge opportunity to like be a good person and not be like this psycho brat a-hole that like they
Yeah.
might have preconceived notions about in their minds, just kind of shift.
And make no mistake, most people have a preconceived notion about us.
Yeah,
Let's be
think
realistic about it.
I never thought that for the majority of my life up until recently. Like now that all this anti-Semitism is so like a free-for-all, it's like you really see them coming out of the woodworks, and it's like, okay,
dangerous.
everyone thinks that. And like even people that I work with, like you'll tell them things and they'll be like, the way they respond, it's like, wait, do you also think like this? Like that's crazy. Like you know me, like we know each other. And yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, we definitely can't be adding fuel to the fire. We have to be better than that.
And again, use your ammunition where you can, but it is an important concept in the fact that you have to glorify Hashem's name. You have to glorify, one of my pet peeves are with my non-Jewish friends, my
Mhm.
very close non-Jewish friends, is to take them to Israel. Either, I had some very close friends that got married as a gift. Instead of giving them a gift or buying something from registry, I actually invited them to Israel.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, it's a fun time and it's a great time.
Wait, you said this is one of your pet peeves?
Yeah, one of the things that I love to do.
Okay, that's not a pet peeve.
Well, no, but it's like, no, but my non-Jewish friends who, even though
they find it a pet peeve?
No.
Okay.
Mine, like, it's a thing that I love to do in the sense that they, even as much as they're close to, Jewish friends, and I talk about it, and they've been over my house for Shabbat, even if they're not Jewish and they see all the culture that we have, but I want to take them to Israel for them to experience it firsthand. Okay. And it doesn't matter what I've done or what I've explained. Once they've experienced it on their own and they've seen it, it changes their whole
for sure, yeah,
their whole life. And that in itself is Kiddush Hashem, because you are really bringing, you're putting in front of them the reality that we try to put out, but like in real imagery, for them to understand.
Yeah, no, nothing can get you to understand something more than like experiencing it. That was literally my whole last episode topic, was like how a lot of the mitzvot, like until you experience it, it's like the first step into understanding something is like experiencing like what this does for your life. Like if you want to tell someone, like you just mentioned Shabbat, like about your Shabbat table and how amazing it is to get the family to sit down, like, yeah, it sounds really beautiful, but like being there and sitting at the table and singing and drinking and eating the best food and whatever and laughing, like that's like, you're like, wow, this is great, you get to like really see it. So that's cool that you do that. I think that's a lot of people need to book a trip to Israel. Not on a flotilla though, that won't get you the the right experience.
They try to plan that out better.
So is this like whole practice of like Kiddush Hashem, is this something that is like it comes naturally to you, or is it like a conscious effort that you're making? Like what advice can you give to like people who want to now start putting this into their life?
For me, it has become natural.
That's awesome.
And I speak about it all the time, and I boast about it all the time, and I don't boast about anything except this. You do something good, you do things because we're supposed to do good things. You don't deserve a crown for doing the right thing. But when it comes to this subject, you need to talk about it, and you need to make sure that the other side, who you just did the right thing for and is not aware or is actually surprised, that you're emphasizing why you're doing it, because it's the only thing that we have left.
Yeah, it's true. It's like our actions, how we act. Can I share something that I feel that makes you a Kiddush Hashem?
Okay.
So I think just
don't embarrass me.
No, no. This is actually, you're gonna like this. This is just from like knowing you and your family personally. I feel like just your family as a whole is the Kiddush Hashem, because it's unfortunate. This is actually like really sad, but like people that are like as successful as you are, it's very rare to find someone who is also successful but also a family man and also has this like strong close unit family. And like even like you and your wife, I mean, I'm obsessed with your wife, I love Karen, and I've never met someone more obsessed with their husband in my life. Like you guys have like you guys seem to have really like cracked the code on this whole like family thing. And I'm just wondering, like, what's the secret behind that? Like, do you think that your marriage, like the success of your marriage, like being in this world that you're in, like is connected to your Jewish values at all?
For sure, they're connected to our Jewish values, and I think, the base Jewish values. And if you look at religion and the laws of religion, and when I talked about it before, that they make sense, a lot of these laws make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Gifting your wife, taking care of your wife, supporting your husband. The basic.
Karen loves that one, gifting your wife. But it's still me.
But those are like the bases, and from a religious perspective, when you look at them or you think about them, they have meaning that are so logical and they work. The success is not overcomplicating it. That's usually what I say. I'm married almost 30 years, and and it's true. And I don't say this just because it's cliche, but we are obsessed with each other even until
so cute.
Yeah, no, even until today. But it's work. It's not as simple as it is. Where do you start? I think obviously starting young and molding to be the same from a young age makes a very big difference. I
also
think,
like a Jewish idea, like we get married pretty young.
Yeah, and you know what? There's a logic to that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to judge at what age it should. I don't have the right number, and I don't care about
it's
what
not
number.
The same for everybody.
But there's a logic to that.
Yeah.
Getting married much older, which is fine also, and I get it, and I'm not judging anybody whatsoever. But I think when you're very young, you do mold with each other and
young
grow.
And stupid.
Well, you're
less picky.
Yeah, and you grow with each other, and you're successful with each other, and you fail together. I think that's what makes it. That's one of the things that makes a lot of sense, and obviously has worked for us too.
Yeah,
That's
no,
the
for sure. I mean,
foundation.
it's really gross. I watch a lot of like trash reality TV, and you see all these people like they start out getting a little money, they get a little fame, status, whatever, and then like all of a sudden like they turn into complete jerks and they're like cheating on their wives and leaving their families. And it's like if you're a Jew and doing that, like that's embarrassing. Like if people know you're a Jew and like you're in these big scandals, like why do you gotta tell people you're a Jew at that
Yeah.
point? Like
If they,
stop.
right. Don't wear the kippah that far.
Yeah, definitely don't wear the kippah. That's for sure.
But don't take it to Israel.
No, don't. But yeah, like at the end of the day, like you have to think like we're better than this. Like we're not supposed to be. We're supposed to act. It's a lot of pressure, honestly, to be a Jew because, like I said, we have a target on our back always, and people can think that. Like I know a lot of non-Jews would like accuse that as being like, oh, you guys think you're better than everyone. Like we didn't ask for this. Like you guys are the ones who find every little thing to blame on us and to pinpoint on us and the fact that we have all this like
People hate success.
yeah.
And we're not trying to be successful for the wrong reasons.
Mhm.
We're just, we just want to work hard and challenge ourselves to be the best, the best that we can be. And I think that it's instilled in us and we've learned that. And it is what it is. Now, people want to hate, they're always going to hate.
Yeah.
It's clear that people hate success. And, I think that our success, we don't think that we're better than anybody. I just know that we always strive to be the best, versions of who we are.
Yeah.
Which, everybody can do that, except many aren't doing it. They just waste their time on insignificant things.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, it's really important for us to like change that reputation of ours. And I don't know, it's hard. It's hard when you see like a Jew in the media, like going through something, you're like, oh, like that's
I
so
think
cringe.
it might be impossible to change that.
Yeah. I
The
mean,
numbers don't stack up in our favor.
it is impossible, but I mean, there's why add like more fuel to the fire sort of thing is what I'm saying.
Well,
So-
we should definitely avoid.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. Okay, I also want to get into your kids a little bit because like how does someone like yourself raise such hardworking, just mature, responsible kids and not like entitled a-holes?
So I wish I had the perfect formula.
Right.
What I would say is that maybe it's by leading by example. I think that, there's one thing about educating, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that, don't take pictures of this, take pictures of that. You can, that in my opinion, that doesn't work. When the kids growing up, and you might have known this, we didn't put a curfew.
I knew that because I was
Yeah.
to sleep at your house every night just to get away from my curfew.
There was no curfew in the house. We don't track whatever that thing is called. Track me.
Yeah, yeah.
On our, we don't track any of I know the kids do track each other for whatever, but I've never tracked my kids. I don't put a speedometer on their cars. None of that stuff. It's got to be trust, and you lead by example. And I think that when they see that in itself allows them to learn and to mold into something, or to at least expect to be something that they see at home. And it's positive. My relationship with my wife, the way that we are with each other, we don't hide it. And it bugs me. I've seen it, for example, in the religious community. I have a lot of religious friends, and I adore them, but I like to poke at them, as I like to poke, the bear, and understand the reasoning behind a lot of the things that
Yeah.
we as Jews are supposed to do, what we do, what we don't do. And I'm like, I don't see a lot of religious people like holding hands when they walk. No, we're not supposed to. We should do it in private. It's like, it's the exact opposite. It's your wife. You could
Yeah.
I understand humbleness, and I understand I get all that.
I also struggle with that.
Yeah, but I tell my wife and I think we are very compassionate with each other, and we do it publicly, and we're affectionate with each other, and we do it publicly, and we do it in front of our kids. And I think those things are important, that they understand. For example, that's something they learn. I expect my daughters to grow up and expect that, which is a nice thing to expect. I expect my boys to understand that that's what they need to show,
Right.
because that's what a woman would like to be. A woman should be treated, and a guy, So I think those are small examples. You talk about work ethics. I don't think I tell my kids, you got to get up, you have to be in the office at this time. It's like they've seen that work is work, and it's the foundation of how we live. But it's part of our family,
Right, right.
and they grew into it. And I think that builds character, and obviously builds the responsibility that they see that pays off in a very positive way. So why not follow the positive formula? And the other secret, the only rule that Karen and I ever set in the house was, when the kids were younger, obviously, was breakfast and dinner together. Always
every night?
every day breakfast, even
Wow.
though, you know, before they're running out to Hillel or going to school and it's 5 minutes or eating cereal, whatever, we all sit at the table together. It wasn't like, I'm not having breakfast, I'm out the door. Every day it was breakfast until,
I love that.
and dinner, the same thing. Now, obviously, we all have different schedules. The kids have after school activities. Sometimes they're tired, but
Yeah.
we all sat at the table. You know, if I came from work an hour later than usual and the kids were tired, it's okay. They came downstairs
Yeah.
and we had dinner, even if it was a 10-minute, you know, it's not like a formal sit down, silver setting dinner. That's not what
Gotcha.
I'm saying.
Just
But-
to see them.
No, we sat, and that's the moment where you see each other with the siblings, you know, create a
bond,
connection.
yeah.
This is what we talk about. They see if
That's
I'm
so cute.
stressing
I love
that
that.
day, if, you know, if Karen had a bad day, if I had a bad day, if I had a great day, those are things, you know, they got to see the reality. I think that when you hide the reality for your children, that's the biggest mistake. They got to see when you're having a terrible day and you're struggling.
Like how
And
you
they-
deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have to see when you're celebrating a great day. And the other thing that I'm very much against that we try to do is we don't overplay anything. I don't come home and say, "Oh, what a hard day I had," even though I had an easy day. It's, you know, that BS is not worth it. You know, say it as it is. Oh, it was an easy day. It wasn't a lot of work today. It's okay.
Yeah.
You know, people seem
Be
to
honest.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, oh, I have to show off like I worked my ass off, and then no, just. And I
Yeah.
think that's how.
I think it's going back even to what you were saying about like experiencing versus like telling what to do and saying like or trying to understand, like just them experiencing like who you guys are as people, as parents, like has molded the way that they are. And that's like, I feel like a lot of people that give like parenting advice, it's always like a big thing is leading by example. It's like, it's so important because kids, like especially now since becoming a mom, like you don't even know until you have a kid like how much of like their surroundings like affect everything that they do. Like she'll just pick up on random things that I'm doing that I didn't even notice that I'm doing. Like every time she's doing her doll's hair or something, she'll put like a cuckoo in her mouth and I'm like, where did she get that? And then I'll be doing her hair, I'm like, oh, like that's where she got it from. Like I always do that. It's like they pick up on everything. So even as we get older, for sure.
But the important thing is, don't be blaming anybody. You know, I always tell people, don't be blaming. Tell me who your friends are. I'll tell you who you are. Yeah, sure. You know, hang out with the right kids, or tell our kids we want them to hang out with the right friends. But it all starts at the house. Make no mistake. It all happens what you're showing them at home, because even they're going to meet bad people, bad influences, bad friends. You got to give them the tools to know that that's a bad person, or that person is not somebody I want to be friends with. So as parents, we got to stop blaming, you know, oh, the kid's wearing his friends. It's like, if you would have shown them the right way to begin with, I think that they would have made the choice not to go.
Yeah, I think
do
the
it.
big problem with our generation is like we don't like to take responsibility for anything that like any of our faults, you know. It's like let's try to find anything else to put that on. It's a struggle. Okay, so just to wrap up, I really like that. That was like good for me, even if it's not like so relatable for the people listening. I knew this is like really good advice for me to hear, having like a little one at home. So I appreciate you being like open about that. So just to kind of wrap up, I saved the juiciest topic for last, spiciest topic. So while we're on the theme of like Jewish values and family values, I know that you're someone who's very adamant about your kids marrying Jewish. So do you think that this idea kind of contradicts a little bit like the Kiddush Hashem thing? Because I know of like a lot of people who might hear that and be like, well, that's racist, you know? So what do you think about that?
So let's clarify that. Sure, I do want my kids to, of course, I want my kids to marry Jewish, but take it a step further. You know, we need, I think, for a marriage to be successful, you have to come from the same mold.
Okay.
So forget about religion for a second. Just, you don't have, you know, different cultures. Yes, they work sometimes. Of course, there's obviously exceptions, but usually you want to have two people that have the same background, the same beliefs, the same concept, because, you know, as it is, marriage and having a family is very complex.
It's complicated enough.
It is very complicated. You don't need to bring in outside influences that could be avoided. Now, obviously, you know, things happen in the world, but you want to be able to mold into people that have the same beliefs, religious beliefs, holiday beliefs, you know, what they do. You know, it gets complex. You know, if you have a Jewish family who's very religious, let's take it to an extreme, and the other family is very Christian, and they celebrate Christmas, and they go to church, but we have to go to synagogue. Like, I'm using the most,
yeah.
It's almost impossible to think about it unless you disconnect from both families, because yes, we say we marry you not only marry the person, you marry their whole family. Yes, that's true, but then all those influences have to be completely removed. And yeah, you can take two people and they can live on an island and start fresh. That could work, and maybe obviously that's not reality. But I don't think when we say marry Jewish is only about keeping the Jewish lineage, but there's also a lot of logic to it. Now, for me personally, and this is just my personal thought, there's a lot of short-term history that does affect me. And I'll use my grandmother, which I brought before. My grandmother's a Holocaust survivor. There's not a day that we don't bring up the Holocaust, honestly.
Yeah.
It's been engraved in my mind. I grew up with a grandma that was a Holocaust survivor, and I was very close to her. And I think knowing why all of her family was murdered and for what reasons, just for being Jewish, and the fact that she survived, and to break that lineage just because
It's like, who are you?
to me, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I think that in itself means a lot. And then to take it a step further, obviously Israel and Judaism is connected, and it is important, to keep the Jewishness, the Israeliness in the family, because that's how we grew up, and that's what makes sense to us.
Right. No, yeah, I mean, it's not about race, really. It's not about it's not a racist issue. It's more of like keeping that Jewish identity.
What is racist? Like black, white? That's what we mean by racist? Or
like I'm saying, yeah, like closing, like people would argue like that's racist. Like you only are going to date Jewish people. What about black people? What about Latin people? What about, because to me, being Jewish is a race. It's like a nationality, much more than it's a religion.
Sure, but we have to be careful with that, because there is a very big black Jewish community in Israel, from the Ethiopians that
for sure.
And let's make it clear, I would have absolutely no problem. If I did, I think that would be racist.
For sure, yeah,
So
I agree.
Color to me is not in the racist.
I guess maybe race wasn't the right word. Maybe more like discriminatory towards like non-Jews.
And I would understand why people would see that.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think people are hiding behind a rock when they're talking about. They're not being truthful.
They're not really like thinking about what that means.
No, think about them. Because just marry somebody that's within your same, within your same beliefs and lifestyles.
Right.
Families are similar. They do and celebrate and act in similar ways, and it will work. Or it has a much better chance of working out. And like I said, marriage is very complicated. So you want to add 100 more complexities? What? I don't know what the statistics on divorce today, but to make it even more complex to me is just...
Yeah, it's crazy. Like living with a man is hard enough.
Great,
I'm
thank you.
joking. No, but it's true. Like it is really hard. It's like there's always like struggles and issues. And like, even if you align so much on your values, like completely, like I dated in like a religious way where like we were literally only talking about all that stuff and like making sure we're on the same page. And still there's so many things that like complicated along the way. And I'm like, wait, I didn't know you do that or you do this. So like, why add more complications to it? Like,
there'll be plenty to get through.
I'm sure. Yeah. Is it true that you said that you would take your kids out of the will if they didn't marry Jewish?
No, not exactly. not exactly, but there is language in there of some sort.
Okay.
Just to make sure that their marriage works out.
Yeah, but I think it goes back to what you're saying. Like it's not even like an option in their minds without you even saying it. Like the way that
I don't think that, I don't think that I scream in my house, don't you ever dare marry a nun.
You don't have to though.
No, it's like, this is what I've given you. I will tell you one thing, and I'll say publicly, obviously, if my kids decide to do so, I will not disown them.
No, I agree with that.
Just to be very clear, I wouldn't.
No, I think that's horrible.
I think they're going to have a very rough time managing their differences.
Yeah.
Which is going to be complicated as it is, as we said. But again, I'm not going to disown them. I'm going to adore them, and I'll adore the spouse or the husband. But it's going to just make it very messy for them.
Yeah, no, I think people who say things like that, like I'm going to disown my kids if they do this and this and that, like you probably don't have kids, because like, how could you disown your child?
Yeah, for sure. Like, that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, I think that, people can't, when you say you cannot marry Jewish, I'm like, it's not so much that. It's more about making sure that you realize that you need to be compatible.
Yeah, I agree. And then this like whole like the importance of this for you, like Jewish continuity and like all the things that you just mentioned, is that something that you got like from your upbringing, or is that something you just developed on your own?
I think it was developed. I think it comes natural to us. look, if we don't keep our the chain of our Judaism and our cultures, and it would be broken by now. There would be no Judaism. We would all be spread out. Everything that, we have a belief, and, hopefully we believe in the right way, because there's obviously different ways for everybody. But I think we obviously are very clear that we're in the right beliefs, and why break that? It's worked for us. It's saved us. We've survived through probably the most persecuted religion in all of time. So
most hated people to walk the earth. No, it is like, that's something my dad always kind of told us and stuff, is that it was never really like a thought for us and our family to like marry non-Jewish. I mean, they only put us in like Jewish environments as like kids and stuff, but
but that's not the only
thing. No.
Yeah, that's not the only way to avoid it.
Yeah, but he would always say, like, the fact that you're Jewish, like, that's so crazy and rare, and like it's so hard to like be Jewish, considering all the stuff we had to go through. Like, your grandpa had to march from Morocco and do this, and then his grandpa had to like travel a desert, and then this one, and then like they still kept their Judaism, and they still did Shabbat, and like the fact that you're a Jew today means that like your ancestors were probably really religious. Otherwise, like it would have gone away. So if you're like marrying non-Jewish, you're now like you're like a start to ending that whole hard work that got you to this point.
And that's my point. And again, I like I said, I focus on one person. I focus on my grandmother, and I say all the suffering that she went through, and she saw it all. Meaning, she faced death in front of, and her mother and her sisters, and the worst that anybody can imagine. And just knowing that, and to know that she fought for her Judaism, I'm not about to give that up. My family should not be ready to give that up. And again, I say that this is where it's compatible. When I talk about the Holocaust at home, Karen understands it. Her grandfather, the same thing.
Right. Oh, probably that also was
identical story. He was in Greece. My grandmother was in Eastern Europe. So different areas of the world, but same kind of story and same kind of sentiment coming down. We have that scarred feeling in us,
right.
And why, and I think it motivates us to keep Judaism and the community together.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's really important, and it's even like a command that we get from God. It's like, and I think something that like most Jews take pretty seriously. So I think there's like a reason for that. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. So thank you so much for doing this. This was a lot of fun.
That's fun.
Learned a lot, which is always the goal. So yeah, thank you, Eyal.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for growing with us today. If you enjoyed this episode of Eve's Gardeners, share it, like it, comment, subscribe, whatever else there is. I would seriously appreciate it. And if you want to stay up to date with new episodes that are coming out, follow @Eve's Gardeners on Instagram and TikTok. I cannot wait to hang out in the garden again next week. Bye.